Welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Almanac. And as you can see, it's just going to be me tonight. Um, Adam is not wimping out. He had a basketball tournament. He was coaching a tournament today that literally the game started at 8 o'clock. And first off, in San Antonio, that's criminal. You're having a tournament game start at 8 o'clock on an NBA Finals night. What are we doing here? Come on, let's be better about that. But we're hiding the headline here. The New York Knicks are NBA champions for the first time in 73 years. They broke the streak. They've ended it, and good for them. We're gonna get into that. It's gonna be awesome. I mean, Jalen Brunson was ridiculous. 45 points in the closeout game 5. Absolutely special. I'm gonna do the like in time, like where does he rank among Knicks players of all time? Like importance. I mean, not the like best players because it's like again, this generation is just better in talent wise, but like the importance ranking of Knick players in the NBA history. And so I'm going to get into that a little bit too. And then also we're just going to end by talking about the Spurs, talking about like, hey, where are you at as a young franchise, as a young team? What's next and what can be done? And so we'll get into that as well. But before we get going, here are our friends from Green Tide. The New York Knicks have won their third title. They won one in 1970, beating the Lakers in what was a super fun series. And then in 1973, they beat the Lakers again. 73 years later, playing a team that was not in the NBA in 1973. They were in the ABA during the 70s, the San Antonio Spurs. A team who has won so many titles since the 21st century has started. They have now beaten the Spurs in 5 games, and let's just put it out there right now. I mean, the Knicks were special this entire playoffs. The fact the first round series against the Hawks was the one that went the longest. They lost 2 games to that in that series, and they only lost 3 games all playoffs. It's absolutely special. And I don't know if that's going to get talked about a lot, but if you look at just like teams who have done that in the past and just in this decade, it's very few. I mean, it's very few teams who have lost that many times during a playoff stretch where they won the title as well. So I think that's what's great. And then their best player, Jalen Brunson, was Finals MVP. 45 points, which was a Knicks Finals record. Beat out Willis Reed, who had 38 points back in 1970. There is a lot of lore that will come from this team. And honestly, there's a lot of comparisons to that 1970 team. And we can get into just how it all ends up, but like, you can't deny what Jalen Brunson did tonight. And it was just incredibly special. What he did, and like this was by far his best overall game of the finals. Cat had a great game 1, game 2, got him to game 3 where they needed him. And then game 3, he's still a little less efficient, a little more efficient, 32 points. 32, 5, and 5. But then it's game 4 back home, 44 minutes, and it's the 36, 5, and 7 that you're like, okay, he's found his groove. And he's getting back to his efficiency, and he's looking for other guys. And then tonight, 45 points. Absolutely crazy. And it's the fact that the guy was practicing shots to go against Wemby. And he's shown in all series just how talented he is, just creating for himself and for others. And it's a lot of hockey assists, honestly, that he gets. He was just very special. Um, you also got to talk about Cat, who was the second best player on this Knicks team for all season, and he was, like I said, probably the best player in these first two games when they beat San Antonio in game one. Cat had 18-12, and just some big plays down the stretch. I know Brunson's going to have the higher point total in that game with 30. Incredibly crappy shooting game, but Cat was just great in that game. And then OG. I mean, listen, that trio, them, it was just special all series. I mean, OG with the crazy tip in game 4. And I know we didn't record after the historic comeback in game 4, and we can touch on it right now. I mean, you knew that's when the momentum had totally, completely shifted to New York, and you didn't feel like San Antonio really had a shot after that. And you can tell that's the young team jitters kicking in a little bit too. It's the young team, not immaturity, because this isn't an immature team. It's not a low IQ team, but it's the tension of the finals kicking in. And I think that's, unfortunately, just what happened. And I think the fact that the Spurs made it this far and had such a dominant playoffs and had beaten pretty big teams. I mean, the Blazers were no pushover. The Timberwolves were a team that had made conference finals in this decade, and then beating the defending champs in the Thunder. I mean, this is no slouch for the Spurs either. So I think there's a lot of give and take from either side on this. Let's talk about just this Knicks team in the finals, though. A team that has had different massive showings from Landry Shamet, double-digit point nights throughout it all. There was questions about what they were going to get from Mikal Bridges. And to be honest with you, Mikal Bridges was solid in 2 games. In game 2, they won, and he had 20 points, and it was an important 20 points. Kept him in the game. And then even tonight, in game 5, he was special. You won him out there for his defensive attitude. You won him out there as being a tertiary scorer, and he hasn't been that a lot since he's been in New York. That has kind of become OG's role, and OG was just the man. And I think, honestly, if it was leaning in my head, I'm like, is there a chance that OG has like an Iggy Finals MVP chance? And I think it's in one of those scenarios that the NBA has learned it has to go to a guy like Jalen Brunson. It has to go to the number one guy who got them there. And Jalen Brunson 100% deserves it. The Villanova crew just can't stop winning. Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson can't stop winning. And honestly, just good for them. Very special. Jalen Brunson, where does he rank in all-time Knicks? Well, listen, unfortunately, he's probably just past Patrick Ewing in the fact that he won them a title. Sorry, Pat. I think the only guy I'd have him behind is still Walt Frazier. Mostly because Frazier has still just stayed involved with the team ever since he left, being the color commentator. I think the only guy who deservingly is ahead of him is Walt Frazier. And Frazier has 2 titles with them, had the historic Game 7 in 1970, and was the best player on that team in 73. I think just where he lands historically important to this Knicks team, he's got to be number 1. And I think Jalen Brunson might be number 2 now. Ewing is number 3, 2B probably. But the fact that Brunson, New York took a risk, brought in Brunson and said, hey, we liked what you did when Doncic was out. Can you come do that for us here in New York, in the Big Apple? Take on the absolute massive pressure that is playing here in Madison Square Garden. Put that on your shoulders and go do that. He said, sure. And he did the thing. This feels like he was getting the monkey off the back for the Knicks. For the past 2 years, they lost to the Pacers last year in the conference finals, 2 years ago in the second round. It felt like an immense need. And then 3 years ago, losing to the Heat, the 8 seed Heat in the second round. This felt like a game where they needed to win, they needed to have it, and this was their year of destiny, and they did it. They got the monkey off the back, a 53-year monkey. But it's an incredible time to be a Knicks fan. Please do not go absolutely stupid in the streets of New York. We don't need that. I want to then go to the Spurs. Wembanyama is incredibly special. We saw how hot he looked and like how energetic he looked in that first half, and I think that's what wore him down. Unfortunately, I just think that was the case. I think he looked so good in the first half, and I think Dylan Harper. The Spurs have their future closer in Dylan Harper. I don't think him and Wembanyama are going to be their two guys that later as the years go on. Those are the two guys you want them with their hand with the ball in their hands. Castle is going to be a great. Adam and I were talking before, and I think that Castle is going to be a great floor general and a great like tertiary scorer guy, but it's got to be through Harper and Wemby going forward. However, you're like people like Mitch. You've made it 10 minutes. You haven't talk about the quote unquote possible flagrant. Talked with Adam right before recording this. We both agree that should have been a flagrant, and I think the NBA would have ruled it a flagrant if this game would have gone the other way and the Spurs would have won, and I think Wemby would have been suspended for Game 6 in New York. And in that case, I think the Knicks win by 45, and we just don't have a fun Game 6. And I think there's a little bit of the refs knew that. It's like, hey, let's just see if the Knicks win this game, and let's see if they can pull this one out. And I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship in that, like sense of like, hey, this might be his last game. Let's not make that the talking point. And I think, for better or worse, I think that was a great way to handle it. But and let the NBA make the decision. Don't make it on your shoulders as the refs. But man, I thought it was a flagrant. It might have you could say it was a little bit of a push. I think into the shot into Brunson. I just think there was a flagrant foul on that, and I think Adam and I both agree. I got a co-signed from Adam that he would have been suspended for Game 6 because we both think it was a flagrant. The other thing is this: Castle only making one shot tonight, brutal. The other thing is Fox going 3 of 15. And even before this game started, we had people tweeting Fox trades. A guy named Sam Quinn on Twitter, just the biggest. I thought I was a slut for the trade machine. This guy's bigger than me. He thought Tyler Hero and Nikola Jovic would be a good trade option for the Spurs just to look at for Fox. And I said, huh? Hero just doesn't fit this mold at all. The Spurs won't trade Fox for another guard. If they're gonna trade him, they're gonna trade him for a wing. And I'm very curious to see what kind of team has a wing available that fits what San Antonio would kind of be looking for. I have a few teams in mind, but man, it's like one of those things. I'm like, do you just call up Sacramento and say, hey, can we take DeRozan? But I'm like, DeRozan's on the back end of his career. It might not be it's definitely not worth it. Do you call Utah and you're like, hey, we know you're not taking a guard. We know you're not probably taking Peterson. You're probably going to take Boozer or DeBanza here with your second pick. Do you want a guard to go with that pick and we'll take Markkanen? I don't know. I think that the Jazz also love Markkanen too much. So I'm just trying to think about what wing is Porter like the guy that they're like, hey, Brooklyn, do you want Fox for Porter Jr.? I'm like, I don't know. There's just got to be a wing out there somewhere that the Spurs can be like, hey, we need you to come in and be just the bigger scoring wing. But the thing is that there's not a lot of those guys, not a lot of top-level guys that can do that. And are they worth the trade for Fox? because I think you got to keep you don't trade Castle, you don't trade Harper, you don't trade Wemby, of course, but it's just like Fox is the movable piece, and I like Fox just as a vet being there. But if you're trying to get a wing in the door, and Carter Bryant's probably like 2-3 years away from being the right like mold to start, if he ever is good enough to start. I just think there's a few years before he's just that level of ready. But I'm just trying to think of wings. Like, I don't know if Andrew Wiggins is worth that at that point. But point still being, I think the Spurs have a lot to be proud of. I said it earlier, this is the teams they've beat. I think that they have a lot to be proud of what they did this postseason. And I think there's a lot to look ahead to for them. That being said, I think there's just questions about their roster creation. It felt very college-like. Like they're the guys they have playing a lot. It felt like a lot of guards and then the one big all the time. And Carter Bryant was just the wing you throw out there just to give your guys some rest and some minutes because he's an athletic bulldozer who caught his shot later in the season. And I already have compared him to does he follow the OG archetype? I think that OG and Anunoby archetype, and I think that's the best way for him to continue to grow in this game is to kind of follow that mold. But we'll see. I'm very curious to see what San Antonio does this offseason. Do they move Fox? Do they keep him? For New York, again, it's just a congratulations. Like, holy shit, you did it. 53 years. I think there is a lot to be proud of. And I want to say this. They hadn't made the finals since 99. They lost the Spurs in 99. They hadn't made the conference finals since 2000, which they lost to the Pacers in 2000. Which was crazy. I guess they made the conference finals last year. My bad. But the Knicks have got something going here. And I don't think the East is as bad as people have felt it was. Because let's be honest here, we have now gone back and forth the past 4 years now. Nuggets won in 23, the Celtics in 24, Thunder in 25, Knicks in 26. Also, there's been no duplicate team in the past 7 years now. 8 years. We've had I guess the Warriors. So 7 years. We've had 7 different champions in the past 7 years. 7 different champions in the past 8 years, 9 years. I think this is going to continue, and I think the parity is perfect for the NBA. I think dominant franchises are great for rivalries. And I think the Thunder are still that. I think the Spurs can be that. I think the Knicks clearly can be that. If their offense is like this, I think they can clearly be like that. And their chemistry is just off the charts right now. But that's the other thing, too, is this Knicks team had never had this good of chemistry the week into the playoffs. I had never seen them play like this until a week into the playoffs. And you can say there's a little bit of adjustment. They started running things a little bit through Cat and Brunson. And in this finals, we saw just like mostly it run through Brunson just because Cat was in foul trouble these past 2 games. And I think that's going to be a question that everyone talks about, a topic of everyone talks about is like, man, is that going to be a problem? Maybe so. But, again, congrats to the Knicks. I think, like I said, I think Brunson has now put himself second in Knicks lore of most important players to that franchise. I think Frazier's still number 1, but I think this is just a special night for the Knicks. And I'm not going to talk too much more because it's a late night. It's 11 o'clock here in Chicago. And I also hope you love the new layout. My wife and I moved to a new spot, and I'm going to build a little studio in my office space that I have for work and podcasting. Very cool. Hope you like the new spot, and I hope you enjoy this pod. Go Spurs, go Celtics, and congrats Knicks. You did it. God, do I hate you, but honestly, it's hard not to be happy for you and excited for Knicks fans. And the NBA is better when the Knicks are good. Have a good night, y'all.